Hopefully you can hear me okay. Good afternoon, good evening. That was very kind of you, Jeff. A nice introduction, so I think I'll just sit down now and we'll be done for the evening. No, I'm very pleased to be here to speak to all of you. It's a great opportunity for us. I've got my whole family here, so we spent some time on the Great Ocean Road. I've been here for a week already, and visiting and seeing a little bit about the culture, understanding a little bit about traffic, getting off a plane ride that was 17 plus hours, and then driving on the opposite side of the road that I'm used to was an experience, and just getting a feel for how transport works in Australia. Before I actually get to the presentation, which is to talk a little bit about what are the hot topics in North America, and I really want to run through 5 of them. I just want to ask you a few questions. So we're going to have a bit of fun to start out with, and we'll do some quick audience participation. So I'm going to ask how many people have been on one of these modes of transportation with 4 wheels, such as this automated vehicle like the one on the left in Minnesota, or the one on the right, which has 4 wheels, which is actually an electric skateboard. Hopefully I fooled you. It wasn't just a skateboard, but an electric skateboard, which can go 32 kilometers an hour. So show of hands, how many people have been on one of these modes? Anyone? A couple. Okay, this is good. This is different. Every place that I go to has a different answer. What about 3 wheels? When you look at 3-wheel types of transportation, like the electric trike that's shown in the left, or something such as provides a little bit more stability, a cover, such as this electric elf. Anyone been on a 3-wheeled mode of transport? 1. All right, there we are. Okay, let's move on. 2 wheels. How about 2-wheeled, like such as something parked at a traditional bike share, whether it be an e-bike or a traditional bike share vehicle, or an electric scooter? Show of hands. This is what I expected. It's starting to go up, and that's good. We don't see a lot of electric scooters here in Melbourne. And so that was a curiosity for us, because we're seeing this just take over the States, and now where I'm from, which is Canada, we're starting to see it show up in the larger cities. It was a little over a year ago that we actually saw this start to happen in industry, throughout the industry, where you'd see just overnight there would be scooters dropped on a city. The companies weren't asking for approval. They were just dumping them on the street. Thousands of scooters would show up. And so I think a lot of municipalities were reeling from that, and were trying to recover and figure out what to do with them and develop policies. So that's one of the things that we try and do is help municipalities think through what are those policies you need to deal with these types of modes of transport. And are they going to be successful? Are they viable in your city? What about 1-wheel, such as this Swag electric unicycle? Anyone? There we are. Excellent. In the audience that's been on one of these things, and actually on the flight over, I stopped in Vancouver, and there was some guy on one going across a pedestrian crossing. And I was thinking, what is the value of this mode of transport? I have no idea. You can walk faster than it, and the fact that if he hits the lip on the curb in any way, he's going to fall flat on his face. But anyway, it's there, and it's one of the many options that we have before us. But I've forgotten one. How about the no-wheeled option, right? So you've got the mobility option of air taxis being a consideration. You may say, oh, this is far off. This is not going to happen for many years. I'm not so sure that that's the case. I mean, there's about a dozen companies that are already looking at this mode of transport seriously as a way to move people, and not just people, but goods. So What do we know? Mobility options in the world are growing at a very incredibly fast pace. Micromobility options are really valuable for short and medium length trips, which helps us when we're trying to look at connectivity between modes, to look at your full day and the different types of transport that you may run into, different modes of transport. Battery life and technology for this will be very important. A lot of the micromobility that we're seeing revolves around battery life and is electrical in nature. And then lastly, we know that mobility as a service, mobility on demand, more of a US term, will impact car ownership. We know that these modes will impact whether you will one day own a car or not, or feel you even need to own a car. And we think that it's going to revolve back to this idea of how the ease of access. Same thing when there was CDs or records, or you could rent a movie, but you'd have to go to a physical store. When did you stop doing that? You stopped doing that when it became easier to just get it on your phone, right? That's when you stop doing it. So we know that when things become easier, we're going to shift. And you may not want to own that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 car, especially if it becomes autonomous and it has another $30,000 automation pack on top of that cost. We're likely going to see those sorts of modes be fleet modes. So that's not really my presentation. I'll start in with the presentation. Okay, what do we not know? Which modes will win out? How traffic operates, parking needs, safety, how those things will be affected with all of these micromobility options. The standards that we will need, where there's different modes sharing the exact same space on the roadway, sidewalks and bike lanes and all the curbside management issues. So what can stop at the curb? And how our work as transport professionals will change. We don't know how, but we know it will. So the things that you're dealing with are completely different than 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I think 5 years from now, it will be again completely different. One other thing is weather. And so the cyclist in Calgary, Canada, he's on a fat bike, big wheels, traveling through snow, getting more grip. It's an interesting way to travel. I'm not sure why he's in shorts, quite frankly, with the snow, but that's his choice. The individual on the e-scooter in the bottom corner, he's in a suit, and there's a real kind of play in California to look at. Well, it's very hot. And so a business person wanting to get to a meeting in downtown who doesn't want to move their car from wherever it's parked is looking for another way to get to their meeting. And so they're really trying to promote this idea of hot weather. You don't want to perspire and get all sweaty going to the meeting. Well, you could take an alternate mode of transport. So we do know that the types of modes that will be available by location will be completely different. But at the same time, we love when things converge because we like using the same types of devices. But I think there's still going to be differences by location. So already been introduced to us, so I won't spend a lot of time other than saying, I'm the current ITE International President. Jeff Pignatti is our Executive Director and CEO, and works from Washington, as does Jeff Lindley, who is our Chief Technical Officer. So that's the three of us, and we're doing a bit of a study tour right now, trying to understand some of those differences around the world, and also trying to find a way to better connect our members and just the entire transportation profession around the world. So ITE, very heavily predominant in North America. You can see Australia and New Zealand is a bit of a beachhead on the globe, and part of the global district, and has been very active. So this has been somewhat of an interest of ours and one of the reasons why we're here. And we want to certainly kind of promote and see that, that it continues to stay active as it is. And there's very good ideas coming out of both Australia and New Zealand, and so we kind of wanted to see some of that firsthand. We have a plethora of options for connecting with other transport professionals, journals, biweekly emails, and the regular social media. The really big thing about ITE that appeals to me is the people, and quite often it's the students. On the left-hand side, that's a student leadership summit, and I know you've had a couple here in Melbourne already through ITE. They started about 6 years ago in the US, in California, and they just started there for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden it just grew right across the US. They're being provided everywhere, into Canada for the last couple of years, and here in Australia. This is a picture on the other side that I don't think either Jeff or Jeff have seen. I put it in there on purpose. So this is from 2010. I'm way in the back holding up a 1 and an orange ball cap. There's a big tall guy beside me with the Canadian flag. He's from Texas, Robert Wunderlich, a past president. You have others, Gary, the ref there. So we're playing street hockey. It's part of one of our Canadian traditions as part of ITE. When we have a district meeting, you'll have people who have never played street hockey before grab a stick and start hitting each other's legs and trying to get the ball. There's other people that have grown up through ITE. So again, this is a 9-year-old picture, and I think Jeff, you can see past board members there, Jean Chartier, and now Jen Malzer, leadership ITE people. So there's a connection that you gain through a lifetime when you're with these professionals. We have a series of resources that we provide to our members, such as the Curbside Management Practitioner's Guide. It's a free download on the ITE website. We look at things like traffic generation, so trip generation manual, which is based on person trips now. It was changed from just vehicle trips to person trips. We have a brand new parking generation manual as well. I won't go into any more detail on the resources. I want to get to the heart of the presentation, which is what are the things that are at the top of the mind of people in North America right now. And I think there's really 5 of them that we've focused on as an industry, and I'll just go through them. And they're in no particular order. I'm not going to try and say that one's more important than the other. It's just things that we're looking at. So the first one is mobility as a service, or mobility on demand. This is a very topical issue in North America right now with the growth of e-scooters and the number of e-scooter use in major cities, along with rideshare, bike share, car share companies that are making great strides to capture attention and dollars. So last year was the first time in the US that scooter trips actually outnumbered bike share trips. So bike share basically is on the downside, and scooter trips are increasing. And you're now seeing some of the bike share, not even companies, but some are city-based bike share systems move their entire fleet to e-bikes because they think it actually has something to do with it being motorized, the fun of it being motorized. So one of the other issues I'll get to is transportation and health in a minute. So I'll give that one away. So what does this mean for car use in the downtown? Well, it will impact the number of commuter trips. If access to scooters and e-bikes and rideshare and car share and transit options are more readily available in the downtowns, what will it mean for transit use? The exciting thought is in the US particularly, they're looking at first mile, last mile through rideshare. So the Ubers and the Lyfts providing a service to the local transit agency, to get people from the bus stop, the final stop in the line, to their home. And so there's an equity component to that of elderly people, et cetera, that may be walking with groceries and need that access to transit, but also can't walk that distance, that last bit of distance. So you can see that one of the next steps is to try and tie all of this mobility together in the form of a payment. And I think Europe is much further ahead than the US in this area. The US is starting to look at it, and you see things like if you look at Google Maps right now, it used to just tell you how long the car trip was, and then it added transit, and then all of a sudden it's chaining the trip together. It says you can walk to the local bus station, 400 meters, take this bus, walk another 400 meters, take this ferry, et cetera, et cetera. So they're chaining the trips together, but from a financial or monetary standpoint. I think that's the next piece that we're looking at. So one last thing about this area is in January, ITE is going to be announcing a new competition. And it's an exciting thing. We're going to try and make this a worldwide exhibit of capability and knowledge of both professionals and students, trying to define a brand new complete street. So what has a complete street been in the past? It's really been about transit, the incorporation of transit on a street. But I think in the future, we need to look beyond that, look at all the other modes that exist, such as the bike shares and the e-scooters and everything that you're trying to incorporate for micromobility on the street. How will you do that? How will you incorporate them? Right now we're seeing conflicts on the road with scooters that are cutting in front of buses and into car traffic. They're on sidewalks where they're conflicting with pedestrians. They're all over the place. How do you control that? So in the past, you just worried about putting in a bike lane and how you would deal with bike lanes, particularly at intersections. How are you going to intersect that traffic at an intersection? But you throw on e-scooters, and we were just down in Austin, Texas, and it's crazy, the number of movements that are occurring at a street corner. When we're talking about modeling, I'm not sure how that gets modeled, quite frankly. But it's this competition. What we want to do is basically allow teams to form, enter this competition, and basically look at defining what that street cross-section would look like and how you would deal with intersections on a four-block segment in New Orleans, which is where next year's annual meeting is, but also a second location of your choosing so that it can better reflect your home environment. The idea is it's transferable. So whatever your solution is, it needs to be transferable to both locations. The idea is to come up with the best solutions around this area of developing a brand new idea of what a complete street should look like. Second big area, connected and automated vehicles. Approximately 40,000 people die every year on US highways, and the World Health Organization gives a statistic that every 30 seconds someone dies in a car crash around the world. That's terrible statistics and things that it's not just a matter of we can improve upon, but need some guidance. And one of the beliefs by ITE is that CAV is an area, connected and automated vehicles are an area that can change the level of safety. So new technologies have that potential to revolutionize transportation and save thousands of lives. So we're optimistic about the innovations and entrepreneurship that private sector is bringing to our industry. These new technologies are revolutionary, and your car may already employ a level 1 or 2 technology. So lane assist, automatic braking if you're going to be in an accident, regulated cruise control, things like that. If you're getting drowsy or distracted, it's going to beep and remind you. The next level is level 3 automation, which is still very controversial. That requires the driver to be attentive and potentially take control of the vehicle at certain times during the trip. Now, exactly how does that happen, and what are the circumstances when you're requiring a person to be awake or attentive and be able to take control? Some car manufacturers, such as Volvo, Ford, Google, don't believe that level 3 is actually the right stopping spot, and they're actually moving to level 4 as their goal, where it is a more automated environment. Level 5 is the final, is full automation. You're basically cargo at that point. There's no steering wheel or anything. So, specific states like California and the province of Ontario in Canada have legislated the full testing of level 5 autonomous vehicles on public roads. And so that's where I think as a professional organization, we can sound in and say that we should be doing this in a controlled environment, and when it is a proven technology, then it should be released broadly within the public. So that's one of the things that we're working on. Smart communities is the third area I can talk about. So smart communities using new and emerging technologies such as the Internet of Things, big data, automated and connected vehicles as enablers to support livable and prosperous communities that provide opportunities for all citizens. So I'll give another Canadian example, being that I'm Canadian. So there was a recent application by one of the largest chains of drugstores in Canada applying for the testing of drones to fill medical prescriptions and to remote northern Indigenous communities in Canada that were typically inaccessible. There was no easy access in or out. Sometimes their only access was through ice roads, which would form when it got cold enough, and then you would travel over rivers or lakes up to those areas. So there's an example of a smart community idea. In the US, there was a transport challenge around smart cities, and the winning city was Columbus, Ohio. And you had to give a kind of a vision statement of what you were trying to achieve. And what they were trying to achieve is a reduction in child mortality rates by 40% through transportation. And you think, well, how are you going to do that through transportation? And the idea was they looked at the data and the disparity, the health disparity between a rich community and a poor community. And what they linked was that access to any sort of transportation to get to medical appointments, the doctor appointments for child delivery, quite often was not there in these poor communities. And side by side, two neighborhoods, one had a 40% higher mortality rate. So they were looking at how can we develop a system which included everything from CAV to other forms of transit and access to transport to build a smart community. And so that was the winning submission there. So smart communities is a very big area within North America. Fourth area, transport and health. There's a partnering between transportation and health professionals to raise awareness on the intersection of these two important issues. So over time, we've unwittingly removed physical activity from people's lives. Through design, communities are planned in large part around the use of cars and walking. And things like biking or walking, biking, and transit are often considered as an afterthought. The resulting effect has been a growing health challenge. So you might ask, well, why don't we just exercise more? And the fact is that the number of people who make time to regularly exercise, go to the gym, or undertake recreational physical activity is relatively minor compared to the majority of people. So we're finding building exercise into everyday activities is a much better solution. So daily commute to work or trip to school are good places to start, and has a more effective and long-lasting way to manage our health. So how do we turn the corner on transportation to achieve more healthy outcomes? Some of the things that have been thought of: work closer with urban planners, city officials, community groups to provide solutions that are more closely reflective of the integration of land use and transportation. Advocate for complete streets to support active transportation and transit. Establish city targets for active transportation and public transit, and monitor the progress of achieving these goals. And then lastly, encourage the use of clean energy modes of transportation, common in micromobility markets such as electric bikes and scooters. Pollution is another known factor to affect your health. The last area, Vision Zero, and this is an area that in North America we're very far behind a place like Australia or New Zealand, which there's been a long uptake towards zero. On my trip to the Great Ocean Road, I was duly impressed at people sticking to the speed limit of 100 or 80 or whatever it was at the time. I think I understand why. I hope I don't have a ticket waiting for me. But it was very healthy and good to see that was the case. And there seems, through our discussions with various professionals locally, that there's a public uptake. And I'm really curious as to why that is. It's just an acceptance, right? And so it's partially cultural, partially, it's because it's the right thing to do. And I think we have a lot of work to get towards that direction in North America. So our organization provides resources to help its members reduce fatalities and serious injuries and move towards Vision Zero. So how does Vision Zero compare to other national and international efforts to eliminate fatalities? Well, there are a number of different programs that exist, but ITE doesn't just embrace one specific program, but we're trying to endorse and acknowledge the ultimate goal for our members and their work on public roadways around the globe to eliminate traffic deaths and severe injuries. So in closing, our options for mobility continue to expand, and our role as transportation professionals is going to change. We need to be a part of that discussion with industry and government on this topic of mobility. And we know that the world is changing, and we have to change as a profession along with it. So in conclusion, we have many differences in how we approach transport planning, whether in policies, signage, regulations, but we're all trying to achieve the same goals, which is system efficiency, mobility, safety for the traveling public, and least environmental impact. So hopefully we can continue to use these dialogues, like our time that we've spent here in Australia, to continue this discussion and achieve some of these goals. Thank you.